Fasting is largely ignored in the church today. Think about this. When was the last time that you heard your pastor address fasting? When was the last time you thought about fasting in your small group and you discussed that? Or even this, when was the last time you yourself fasted? You see, it's something that we always seem to avoid. But why is that? Why do we avoid fasting? Well, you see, I think that it's because we don't like things that are uncomfortable. And fasting is very uncomfortable. Here in the Americanized church, we avoid things that are uncomfortable. We avoid calling out our brothers and sisters. We avoid these types of things. We don't want to do something that's this difficult. Yet fasting is pivotal to the Christian life. And I'm not talking about fasting in relation to going on a media fast or ditching sugar or ditching chocolate for a short period of time. That's not what I'm talking about. When I talk about fasting, I mean completely abstaining from food for a certain period of time. That's what I'm saying. Completely abstaining from food for a certain period of time. That is what fasting is. That is how it is practiced in the Bible. And we need to start doing that. It's not that avoiding sugar, going on a media fast, or things on these lines are bad. It's just that's not what the biblical understanding of it is. That is not the same thing. You're not getting the same experience from it. You're not drawing closer to God as much through those. Because when you physically abstain from food for a certain period of time, your flesh is fighting against you because you are denying the desires of the flesh to seek the necessary things for your spirit, to seek the necessary things for your soul. So during this time of fasting, you're out there praying. During this time of fasting, you're doing these things. That's what this is for. We see in the biblical times, we see people fasting a lot. The Pharisees themselves fasted 2 times a week. They fasted the 2nd day of the week, and they fasted the 5th day of the week. So why are we fasting so little? Today I will be discussing the importance of fasting. First of all, fasting is an expectation for Christians. In Matthew 5 through 7, we see Jesus giving the Sermon on the Mount. And on the Sermon on the Mount, in chapter 6, Jesus addresses fasting, starting in verse 16. And when you fast, do not look gloomy like the hypocrites, for they disfigure their faces, that their fasting may be seen by others. Truly I say to you, they have received their reward. But when you fast, anoint your head and wash your face, that your fasting may not be seen by others, but by your Father who is in secret. And your Father who sees in secret will reward you. Think about that. Jesus didn't say, if you fast. Jesus didn't say, if you feel like fasting. No. He started out in verse 16 saying, when you fast. Fasting is an expectation for Christians. It is something that we are expected to do. It is something that we are supposed to be doing as Christians. So he's laying it out right here. It is an expectation for us as Christians. We must be fasting. Additionally, he gives a little bit of information out there too. He gives a little bit of a caution. He says that when you fast, do it in secret. Don't go out flaunting it all about. That's not what fasting is about. Fasting is about you and God. It's not about getting some spiritual street credit. It's about you drawing closer to God. That is what fasting is about. Fasting is not about flaunting. Furthermore, listen to this in Acts 14:23. And when they had appointed elders for them in every church, with prayer and fasting, they committed them to the Lord, in whom they had believed. This is in Acts, when the early church is being built up, and we see them praying and fasting to commit these elders to the Lord. You see, we should be doing this. We should be praying and we should be fasting, committing things to the Lord. That's what we should be doing. It shows how serious we are about a topic. It shows the genuineness that we have about a certain topic. So we should be fasting and praying, committing things to the Lord. Also, listen to this. In Esther 4, we see Esther in a very precarious situation. What's going on is that her people are about to be killed. There is now an edict that is sent out, and her people will be killed. And fasting is how she responds. Listen to what she does here, because she's in a bad situation. She wants to go to her husband, who is the king. But if she doesn't get invited to the king and she just walks in, she could be killed because of the rules then. And so she is very nervous about this. So what does she do? Listen to this in Esther 4, verse 16. Go, gather all the Jews to be found in Susa, and hold a fast on my behalf, and do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. I and my young women will also fast as you do. Then I will go to the king, though it is against the law, and if I perish, I perish. Listen to that. Fasting was used in the face of catastrophe. Sometimes there are moments in our lives where we need God to show up. Sometimes there are moments where we desperately need an answer. Sometimes there are moments where we desperately need God to show up and do something miraculous. That's what she was doing here, was she was surrendering it to God. She was fasting. She was seeking God. She was pleading for Him to come near. And so that is another reason that we fast. We fast to seek God's face. In the face of an emergency, we fast. That is something that we ought to be doing. When we run into a difficult situation, fast. When we desperately need to make a decision, fast. When there is a catastrophe, fast. That is one of the amazing things about fasting, is it is a way of seeking God. However, while this is an amazing spiritual discipline, we need to be careful about how we utilize it. We need to make sure that we are not being prideful in the way we practice it. We need to make sure that we are being smart about it. Listen to this in Luke 18, starting in verse 9, says, He also told this parable to some who trusted in themselves, that they were righteous, and treated others with contempt. 2 men went up into the temple to pray, one a Pharisee, and the other a tax collector. The Pharisee, standing by himself, prayed thus, God, I thank you that I am not like other men, extortioners, unjust, adulterers, or even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week, I give tithes of all I get. But the tax collector, standing far off, would not even lift his eyes to heaven, but beat his breast, saying, God, be merciful to me, a sinner. I tell you, this man went down to his house justified, rather than the other. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, but the one who humbles himself will be exalted. Therefore, while this is an extremely important spiritual discipline, we need to make sure that we are practicing it correctly. Remember back to an earlier passage that we saw where Jesus made sure to say, do this in secret. Don't do this for credit. Additionally, right here, we see God saying, don't do this to be prideful. Don't make this a ritual, a meaningless ritual. Instead, do this to draw near to me. Do this in other ways. Stop using these things for credit. Stop doing these things as meaningless rituals to seem more spiritual. That's not what these things are about at all. You see, we need to be fasting. So I would recommend that if you're just starting out, maybe just fast a meal a week. So maybe on Thursdays, fast lunch that day. And make sure to be praying during that time, because that's what fasting is about. Fasting is about suppressing your physical to then draw closer to God spiritually. It is about drawing near to God. It is about praying. It is about getting in devotionals. It's not about abstaining from food. It is about suppressing our physical. It is about suppressing our flesh. And so once you maybe get down and you can easily do a meal, you can fast that time. Try to work up to half a day. Then eventually work up to a day. Maybe even get up to fasting 1 day a month. Or maybe even 1 day every other week. And so in that way, I would recommend fasting. Fasting is so important. It is such an important yet overlooked spiritual discipline. And if you guys want to hear more about fasting, let me know in the comments below, and I will make another video talking about this important spiritual discipline. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. I encourage you that if this video helped you, to like this video, comment, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. And if someone you know could find value from this content, I encourage you, send this video to them. And as always, have a great day.